Now then, adopted as a baby, our next guest spent years wondering who his real parents were, and despite being reunited with his biological mother in 2003, Nick Endicott still didn't know who his father was.
Well, until 2 weeks ago, when a home DNA test revealed that he shared the same genes as Maurice Gibb, who we know as one-third of the legendary group, the Bee Gees. An incredible story. Nick is here now. This is a hell of a tale, Nick, that's for sure. When you were adopted, you always knew you were adopted. There was no great secret there. So what do you know about that part of your life? I
was brought up by a very supportive family in the Ashdown Forest. Lovely childhood. And it was never a secret. I've always known that I was adopted. I don't even remember being told, you know. But
did you know the reason for your adoption?
I think I had two sisters and a brother. They were all older. I think my mum was getting a little bit older and decided to adopt, to have two boys, to make it 2 boys, 2 girls.
Well, when you started searching, and we see these stories so many times on Long Lost Family, Davina and Nikki. I mean, they are extraordinary stories. You never quite know where it's going to go. So you started to search, and what did you find?
Well, I initially started to search in my 20s just to sort of see if I could find something out. And it was really hard to get any answers, to be honest. Lots of forms to fill in, lots of waiting, 12 weeks, 13 weeks for each form. And I thought I'd do it a bit later. I'll leave it for now. It wasn't really a major concern. It was just an idea at the time that I'd start having a little look. But it wasn't till I was, till 2001 sort of time, that it was around the time of my birthday, and I was just thinking about things, and I thought there was this website where you can put messages up on a board, on a forum, and
this is
missingyou.com. So I decided I'll put some info on there and see if I get anything back. And 2 years later, I get an email from my birth mother,
which is extraordinary in itself, that she saw the message that you put up there and then got in contact with you. So she obviously had been thinking about you over these years.
That's what she said to me, that you know, when it comes around the time of my birthday, she often wonders where I am and, you know, what I'm doing and that sort of thing. And her partner at the time was having a little look around that time and saw the message, you know, and then she went from there.
So she's called Patty.
Yes.
And so you met up.
We had quite a surreal meeting in Richmond. I had to meet her quite quickly because she was moving off to Spain within weeks of us connecting. And she basically said that she'd been working in the industry, bits about her studio work with George Martin at Air Studios, and various artists that she'd worked with.
She had mixed in very prestigious musical circles. So she knew everyone at the time. Whether it was the Bee Gees or it was the Beatles or.
Yeah, she knew Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, and you know she was connected to a lot of. When she moved to London, she started working at the Speakeasy Club, which is the members' club of the industry at the time, one of them at the time, where everyone went. And then started working then for a publisher and stuff. So
you must have asked her then questions about your father. That must have been the first thing that you wanted to know. And she did give you information which turned out not to be correct.
Yeah.
So what did she say?
She said it was Chris Andrews, and famous Chris Andrews, Yesterday's Man, and various other, you know, from the 60s, and that's all I got, and it wasn't him. She said, oh, it's not the Yesterday's Man, Chris Andrews. That's all that she knew. But then 2 years later, she said, oh, I found an album cover, and it's from Fleur de Lis, Chris Andrews from Fleur de Lis. So then I could then do a bit of a search on him, and it took another 2 years to connect with him.
Well, you connected with him.
I found him,
assuming then that you had found your father. In fact, he sort of took that on board as well.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, he was great, you know. Was, you know, overwhelmed and happy that we're connecting. And got to know him for 2 years as my father.
Oh, my gosh. And then eventually you have this DNA test and it's proved negative.
We decided... Well, it was you know, one of those nights where you say, have a few wines and think... And I started thinking, you know, wait a minute, he's short and blonde and I'm tall and dark. And it made me think a bit. And so I started looking at various acts and artists and stuff that she'd said she was working with, been around. You know, I thought, you know, anyway, so I decided to do a DNA test with him.
And it came back negative. Well, you went back to your biological mum and you said that this was the case, and she sort of, at that point, started to withdraw from you a little bit. She didn't react very well to finding out that he wasn't your biological father. And you start to look at bands around your mum at the time, and this is when other people's names are sort of thrown into the ring a little bit here.
Yeah.
And it was your biological mum's sister that eventually sort of provided the key to unlock this.
Yeah, I mean, I've met her once before on one of the visits to Spain, and briefly, but knew I had cousins and wanted to meet them, so arranged a trip out to Scotland to see her and meet my cousins for the first time. And I then knew how's Chris? Well, he's not my father, and then that was the time I could tell her that I'd found this out. And I asked her, said, look, do you know who else was around her at the time? And I said, I look a little bit like Dave Clark from the Dave Clark 5, and she was, who was one of the acts around her at the time. And she said, no, believe me, you're not. It's not Dave Clark. He was 10 years older than her.
She knew who it was.
She said,
I'm not going to tell
Chris,
you, it's up to Patty.
Yeah.
Patty wouldn't tell you. Eventually, her sister did. Yeah.
She hinted at who it was, but she said Patty should be the one to tell me.
Yeah, but she
said, I know if it's not Chris, I know who it is, because there's only one other person it could be.
Right, and that other person was Maurice Gibb.
Yeah.
So, long story short, because this is, family histories and DNA and genealogy is incredibly complicated, but you then send your DNA away, and there is a match.
Yeah. In the meantime, this is the course of 9 years.
Of course.
I'd written to the family asking if they could help, and it got to a point where I was getting to an age where I needed to know my medical history. They'd had medical problems in the family. If he is my father, I need to know, scientifically. And nothing came back from any of that plea to them, public plea to them. But then recently we decided to go on I put my DNA on ancestry.co.uk. I've been on another site researching the Y-DNA side, because that is all the male side of...
Well, amazingly, there was a match. Maurice's son Adam had done the same thing. You match up, which then, until you get even a little bit more, you need that 100%. But this is really, really close. And the trouble is that both Patty and the Gibb family have now refused to comment. The Gibb family have refused to add any more DNA. Although you are pretty certain.
Well, it's come back as 100% half-sibling, and that can only happen if we share one parent. It's legally adopted, which, by law, I'm not entitled. I'm a different family.
Does it help? I mean, now knowing that, from being that little boy that had all those questions and a supportive family that were helping you to find out, how does it feel now knowing?
It's overwhelming, actually. It's the completion I feel, and the wholeness I feel from that.
Would you like the family to reach out?
I'd love to connect, because they're all musicians like me. I've been a musician all my life. I've been singing since I was 6. It's been my creative journey all my life.
Do you think it helps the relationship that you would like to have with your family, the fact that you've gone so public?
What, my adoptive family, or
the Gibb family?
I don't know how they actually feel about it. Whether Adam put his DNA out there to help me without having to personally do a DNA test for me, because I'll put it up here and he matches. Yeah. Or he did it for another reason, I don't know. But I publicly want to thank him for doing that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here and telling us the story. It's extraordinary.
I hope you managed to, regardless of the who the family are. As we've said right from the word go, and it is very popular now. Lots of people want to find out who they are.
Yeah.
And it certainly.
I hope this is giving other adoptees hope as well, to not to give up, because you never know.
No, you never know.
You never know.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.